On Tuesday, June 20th, I'm calling this meeting to order. Roll call of directors.
Alice,
Here.
Barnes,
Here.
Lewis,
Here.
Gorman, here, Kaiser,
Here.
Kramer, here, Deal,
Yep.
Tomcheck,
Go.
Zebro, yes, all here.
Thank you. Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 is the approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting. A motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is the approval of the minutes from the Minnesota Board of Education meeting for May 16th, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of points to discuss.
Okay.
And I didn't see your email back to me, Janie, until half hour before I got it. So I had questioned the position of the discussion in closed session about the 4K. It was my opinion that we voted before we heard from the administration, the principals and such. I think the minutes should reflect the fact that that's how it went down. We voted before we heard the information.
And after.
Huh?
And after. Before, you voted in closed session and then also after closed session.
Open session.
In open.
Yeah, but we had them in closed session. We voted before we heard from them.
Oh, is that what the minutes said? Okay, and we'll change
That's
that.
exactly what we did, because we brought the 4 of them and they were here. They sat, that was still in closed session, we had nobody else in here. But that was after we had taken the vote to take that action.
Okay.
Basically, I want the minutes to reflect that we ignored the recommendations and the information provided by the leadership in our schools. And the second issue that I had with the minutes, looking for it here. Oh, I'd asked about my comments on the skid loader purchase, and Jeannie, you did point that out to me, and I guess I'm okay with that. So, thank you.
I have one item too. Future agenda items, is that listed? I'm the one that asked for a couple of future agenda items in the planning and project lists,
Okay,
and that's not exactly what's being reflected here.
okay. How do you want it to read?
We needed a plan, that was the number one statement, and we needed a complete comprehensive project list from our facilities plan.
Is that all?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, then the only thing I had, I'm gonna kind of reflect on what Corey had about that closed session with the 4K. Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the vote was right.
You were
Was it-
correct.
It's the opposite of what we said in open, so I don't think this is reflecting the correct vote.
Okay.
And then the other part, again, going back to the financial, I think we should still lump, because we lumped all of those into one, and you're kind of we're breaking the approval of a contract from all the others, because you're looking like we voted on them two separately, and we lumped all those items together. I think we should lump that one in with the other.
Which one?
The approval of the Kids Town childcare.
Okay. So you want that separate?
I think that should be,
Childcare is one venue.
but I think that all carried over, we did it all as one lump. Because I don't think Kevin and Corey voted no both times on each of those line items, I think we lumped them all together. Do you know what I mean?
I'll check the video, but I thought
Yeah,
they
We
were
were voting
together.
against the kids' time.
No,
Yeah.
but see, it was lumped together, so I know what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? It just looks like we would have broken that out separately, and I
Yep,
didn't
yep.
think that would look good in the,
Okay.
because I know why he was going against it, and I don't think it was just that one particular item.
They voted no on the first item.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Should we be tabling that, coming back to this?
Only if you make that motion. There's no motions on the floor.
I make a motion that we table the approval of the meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Those details are clarified and corrected.
I'll second. So
So we have a motion and a second further discussion from the board. And then we would bring this back at the next board meeting.
Always happy.
Further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will bring that back to the July meeting. Item number 6 is the public forum. Public forum provides the public with the opportunity to ask questions about or address issues included on the school board meeting agenda. General operating rules of the public forum will be determined by the board president once the number of people wishing to speak is identified on the night of the meeting. Prior to addressing the board, please clearly state your name and address. Is there anyone this evening that would like to address the board? I'll ask one more time. Anyone who would like to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll move on to item number 7, which is special presentations. Item 7A is the 2016-2017 library report.
So welcome, Lori.
If you don't know who I am the K-12 Library Media Specialist. My name is Lori Agema. I just finished my 27th year here, so I'm excited about this. So, I did something a little different this year. One of the things we did was I combined the middle school and high school servers. They used to be broken out into the 2 different buildings. But with our one-to-one Chromebook initiative, we have so many kids from the middle school going over to the high school because that's where we house our checkout Chromebooks and the backup Chromebooks, backup chargers, those things. They check out of the high school. And we've had so much cross-traffic between the 2 buildings, also with the collections as well, with especially like 7th, 8th, go over and check out high school books through their English classes. That I just combined the servers. That saved us a little money, and it allows both of my assistants, Connie at the middle school and Carrie at the high school, to be able to log into one unified database. They have access to all the information. They don't need to jump back and forth, call each other. They can just deal with everything on their own. It's been very helpful. So this year, the circulation numbers and the how many volumes and things we have are all combined for middle school, high school, because it's now on one server. So the circulation statistics at the elementary school, we checked out a little over 27,000 books this year. And at the middle school, high school, it was almost 32,000 combined. Okay. Like I mentioned, we have been huge supporting the Chromebook initiative, the one-to-one Chromebook initiative. We checked out 2,094 loaner Chromebooks. At the time I was writing this report, there may have been a couple that snuck in the last couple days of final. We checked out 266 chargers, the kids who needed chargers. And my assistant Carrie at the high school has been huge. She's kind of the first line for the Chrome Savers class. The kids come to her if they have a broken screen or a broken keyboard, something like that. And she gets them the Chromebook we have set aside to log into what they need. She directs the repair over to the students in the Chrome Savers class, and we go from there. Okay. Collection size at the elementary school, we have a little over 20,000 materials cataloged in our database. Middle school, high school is 22,000. Okay. I just gave a rundown a little bit on the classes. Some of my classes are seen with me, some are with my assistants, depending on what building I'm in, since I'm going between 3 different buildings. We still get a lot of study hall kids into the high school library, even though they're bringing their own computers as opposed to having the computer carrels in there. We had over 16,000 students utilize this during study hall at the high school, and the conference room in there is used quite a bit, over 200 times. Database searches, this is something big. We subscribe now to a lot of online databases, and we've seen our usage jump, which makes sense with the one-to-one initiatives, and I won't read them all, you have it in front of you. One of the stats I found interesting was BadgerLink, that is through the Wisconsin DPI, and their counter, they count every time we click on site. And we had over 5 million hits on the BadgerLink site. A lot of them were my students. I get them onto the online encyclopedias and teach them how to cite sources. But they use that resource in a lot of other classes as well. We've added Raz Kids, that's a language arts at K3, and we're adding more as well next year. Another one we added on the database search was Mystery Science. We had 254 searches. Those were like different units that the kids went in, the teachers went in and used with their students. So that was well used. Okay. Some other highlights, just to add a few, we added 2 iPad carts for checkout at the elementary school, and they were highly used. I added a weekly early childhood story time and checkout at the elementary school. At the middle school, I mentioned, we do a lot with the one-to-one initiative. I've added a lot more MP3 audiobooks this year for the students who need to check out and they like to listen and follow along. I pair the audiobooks with a printed book, so they have the listening and the print experience in front of them. I added a digital citizenship unit with the 4th and 5th grade. I took an online, it was actually on cyberbullying, and it ties in with digital citizenship. We talked a lot about our digital footprint, seeing where you are online, places you leave of yourself behind. The kids are very into that. We had a lot of good discussions. At the high school, we had another book fair. We made over $1,000. We used 400 of that for scholarships, and we made a donation to the Evening of Elegance, and we sponsored a bunch of different contests and activities throughout the year through the library. I already talked about how Carrie really helped with the one-to-one initiative. I know you guys have been in there for meetings. You might have noticed we moved the circulation desk. Instead of having our backs to the main doors, we moved it to the side for better security and flow of traffic through there. So that was one of the things I was glad we were able to do this year. I also consolidated a nonfiction section because next year, Chrome Savers, the class, will be moving into the library proper. We made some space for them. They will be, if you're at our circulation desk, they will be off to our right. So we'll be even more hand in hand with them. Coming for next year, like I said, more with the Chrome Savers, definitely at the high school. At the elementary school, this year we went to that 6-day schedule, so the kids were coming once every 6 days. Next year, we're doubling that. They're going to come twice within 6 days, so I'll see the kids 2 times instead of 1, which I like will get more materials into their hands. We're adding 2 more iPad carts for checkouts at the elementary school. We hope to do another book fair at the high school. I'm keeping my eye on, there's a possibility that there'll be a statewide ebook consortium for school libraries across the state. If that does come to be, I want to join that because that'll increase ebook offerings at a better price for our students. And we are always continuing to modify our collections and fill teacher requests and watch for different online services that might serve our needs. Things like that. Any questions? Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7B is an update on summer school.
Real quick overview. Diane and I got to spend a little more quality time in the last couple of weeks. Thank you, Diane, for your work. We're running June 12th to June 29th. We're again running 4 days a week, 3 weeks, and then we're taking a week off for the 4th of July and we'll come back for another 3 weeks. We're running 4 sessions each, or 4 different classes each day, based on the feedback that Katie collected from summer school last summer, so around 7:50 to 12:05 p.m. We've got the same mission and vision as you've heard about in the past. We really want our kids to progress academically and socially, and especially kick off to kindergarten and some of those early programs. The social aspect has been just amazing for me to watch these kids coming in, either from our 4K programs or children that did not attend a 4K program, to learn how to come to school. And our kindergarten staff, as well as others, have done a fabulous job getting those kids used to coming to school. And of course, we'll foster the lifelong learning and keep kids interested. In some cases, just getting them interested in doing school again, because it's a little more laid back and sunshine helps and goes a long way. Some examples of our academic and our enrichment courses, very similar to what's been offered in the past. Our academic courses generally revolve around reading and math, problem solving. Enrichment courses, a lot of state certification courses like our babysitting basics, hunter safety, archery, adventures in art, and some of those. We've got a total of 64 classes first session, 60 classes second session. So in short, that basically means that, thank you, Katie, but I've taken over her entire building. Everything except for the basement and the third floor where Steve is working. We filled it up with kids from roughly 8 o'clock until noon each day. Our enrollment is just, as of last week, we're above last year's enrollment. Had a couple kids sign up today for the next session because they thought it'd be fun to come in, and their parents agreed. So we are currently, between the first two sessions, we're looking at 562 specific students, so there's no duplicates. So if a student is in first session, not second, they're counted. If they're in first and second, they're counted one time. And that doesn't include our strength and conditioning kids at the high school. We've got approximately, as of last week, Thursday, we had 168 kids come in to lift weights and speed train with our coaches and others of those on our fitness staff. That's basically where we are after 6 days of the first 3 weeks. I'm learning a lot about being around little kids. Like when you feel something grab your leg, don't reflexively kick like you do. Because you get hugged, without any notice every once in a while. It's really a lot of fun. It's been a very enjoyable experience. And if we can go without rain the next 4 weeks, that'd be wonderful too, because it certainly makes our lives easier than bussing around, but we're making it happen. So, any questions though?
Just a comment, I appreciate it. It's, looks like the children are really into it and excited and want to be there.
Excited, yeah, we'll use that word. 562 kids in the gymnasium when it's thundering and lightning outside, 8 of which are afraid of thunder and lightning. Let's go with exciting. Yeah. Thank you. It is fun, it really is fun. So,
Thanks, Mr. Lynn.
you bet.
Moving on to item number 8, old business. 8A is discussion and possible decision of facility planning. There are 2 sub-bullets there, one being the review of facility planning process, and the second, update on our timeline and process for revenue limit exemption for energy efficiency projects.
I'm going to begin just with our facility planning. Kind of take us back and take a look at what our facility planning process has been, and just to kind of bring the full board up to date on like what's the plan, like you just said, what's the plan and what has our planning process been, what have we used as a process. So it really began 3 years ago, and it was an important step for us to do we looked at WASB, we looked at CISA, we looked at other vendors that helped us develop a facility plan. We ultimately went with CISA 10, and they're really, because of their expertise and their team of engineers, we felt that other vendors, they would want the project. So that's why we went with an independent CISA 10. And WASB didn't have the team of engineers that CISA 10 had at the time, so that's what we did. We went with that comprehensive facility assessment. So following that month, last month, Kevin asked about reaching out to Roger from WASB to discuss that facility planning after reading his article. So I shared his article, Mr. Price's article, with the board, and it was a great article. The presentation was meant to just reflect and update the board on our comprehensive facility plan. To share that, I did a correlation between Mr. Price's article, because I'm sure you all read that, you get that update in WASB. So I just thought I would do a correlation. This is the tenets that he said are a part of our plan. So how is the plan that we started 3 years ago aligned with what WASB is saying that we should have? Because I thought it would be familiar. So he outlines 8 steps. Let's take a look at how our process fits into his 8 steps. Do a facility and system assessment. Well, we assessed our physical condition entirely, and that was really critical because we needed to know where we were to understand where we wanted to go. So we had that team come in and they evaluated really every inch of the school community. And I give the board a lot of credit. Did we have to evaluate our outbuildings? No, but we evaluated every inch of our entire school district in that facility audit. Then we sat down and we organized and established a shared understanding of what the condition of our district's facilities and systems. The team developed that priority matrix. And that priority matrix has really allowed us to understand what is the priority, what should we do first, what should we do second, what should we do third, based upon how the team put together the priorities. And I'm going to come back to that. We numbered every item, we inspected every item, we assessed it based upon that functional condition, safety and compliance concern, what the project cost was, and the annual savings that could occur if that was replaced. And I'll come back to this facility audit. So as part of that, step 2, the WASB says, is what's the operational efficiency evaluation? So as part of that, we had to evaluate the operational efficiency of our district's facility. And that's really important, because to go forward with the energy efficiency projects that we are now doing, we had to know what are the utility costs, what site planning would have to occur, what's sustainable, what systems do we have are sustainable, what methods and materials and what scheduling efficiencies do we have with the different items. And those details were all outlined in our CISA 10 facility audit. They're captured within the evaluation of each specific item. In addition, we also did the utility and energy costs, and those are outlined within that big audit. So we also took a closer look at the health and the safety considerations. And there's lots to take a look at in that umbrella within our CISA 10. So is there asbestos? Are there vulnerabilities that we have? What's our environmental conditions? There's just a number of different things that we looked at. Fire safety, building systems, building materials, the vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic. Now when we went through those meetings with our community, that became a big issue, was vehicular and pedestrian traffic. And sometimes our community would say, are you here to fix schools or what are we doing? Well, as part of the safety assessment, we recognize that we have some safety concerns with our traffic flow. So that became a big part of our study and a big part of our solution, which was to change that pedestrian traffic and our vehicular traffic flow. That assessment, there was an in-depth analysis of each item. Each item was ranked. In addition, we did extensive work to identify what the facility team concerns were. Do you remember in those big community meetings, community members could say what their concerns were, our team said what our concerns were. We went through over probably 20 meetings talking about different concerns, and although we listed all of those from the community committee, there would still be times when somebody didn't come to one meeting and they came to another and they would bring up a concern. So throughout that year we did that. The functional assessment, that fit for purpose, is what WASB refers to as, and that really focuses on, does that physical condition, does that take into consideration how the people in our building are using it, the users, the kids, the curriculum, how does that fit? So that approach, we took a look at that, not just from a traditional physical condition, but how well does our space meet the functional needs of the program that it's supposed to serve. And what did we find? Well, we found that our 3 science classrooms really should be 2 bigger ones, so that more than 24 kids can fit in there. We realized that we have really small classrooms that are segregated for our special needs kids. We found a number of different physical issues that we have that don't fit how we're delivering curriculum today. So we also took a look at, are there a sufficient number of learning spaces to accommodate the current and projected student population? We did the population study from the applied population study of UW-Madison, came in, and that population study is linked there. We took a really close look at that fit for purpose and what are our curricular needs. Well, we had some advanced placement courses and dual credit courses at the high school, and we had to change our spaces to be able to offer those. That Chromebook repair, we took a look at that course, we had to change. You just heard Lori share that we're going to change it again next year. We had to create a space for that to occur based on a curriculum need. As we are having more inclusionary practices and students are going into the classroom, we need some bigger classrooms, classrooms that have modified desks. for students in wheelchairs. In our health and wellness, one of the things that we really took a look at is we wanted to offer a yoga class. Well, guess what? We had no room and no place to be able to offer that. That's a physical change due to curricular needs that we're having. Our fitness center was exploding. Lots of kids out in the hallway trying to take physical fitness or be a part of that class. Many of them were in the hallway. We had to change our physical space. At the middle school, we had a code red class. Had to change that space, all driven by what the needs of our curriculum are. We have a robotics class, response to intervention. So where are we gonna put those kids? Where are they gonna go? All of these started to drive, do we have the right spaces? Do we have that? At the elementary school, we looked at the instructional delivery of math and science. We took one of the classrooms at the elementary school that were used as a different classroom and made that into a science classroom to be able to set up. More inclusionary practices allowed us to have additional space because rather than a separate classroom, those kids are coming into the classroom. So throughout the entire assessment, there was a constant discussion about are our physical spaces really meeting the curricular needs that we have? As we look towards the future and we look at are the learning spaces appropriate to serve the academic needs of the future? Can we support project-based learning environments and personalized learning environments? Well, that's a really big question. You know, we have changed our furniture purchases tremendously, but we will need classroom environments that will accommodate flexible grouping. We will definitely need that. We don't have that right now. We don't have that. Luckily, we had that to be able to do the Fab Lab because we had one classroom where 2 classrooms were divided by a portable wall. Now, that portable wall hadn't been open in a really long time, I would guess, Steve.
17 years.
17 years. But we recognized that as a flexible space, which allowed us to create the Fab Lab. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to because we needed a really big space to do the Fab Lab. There was one place in the district the Fab Lab could have went. But as we build spaces, as we look for spaces, we would definitely look for flexible options to be able to do that. Immediate renovations, we knew right away. We knew right away that we need special education classrooms for students in the IDEA section. We know that our high school chemistry labs are awful and they only accommodate a really low amount of kids, 22, 24 kids, and it's a really compact space. We need a bigger flexible space for that. And our technology area for our Chromebook repair class, well, it's gonna go into the library, thank you, Lori, for finding space for that. But we did determine there are some needs right away that we would have to have, and so we started to plan for those really just off of that assessment of our curriculum. When we looked at those external considerations, there was a lot. We reviewed past referendum. Remember the dreaded huge live binder that you kind of got lost in, where I housed all of that information? We took a look at all of the past referendum. We took a look at, should we invite the community in or should we not? And we did. We invited them in. Every facility meeting that was held over 2 years was noticed to the public. You guys decided to do that last year, and you made every single board meeting an opportunity after every agenda item on those facility meetings for the board, for people in the public to come and talk to you. You didn't have to do that. But you looked at external considerations and said the people of Mosinee should have a voice. No. Unfortunately, many didn't take advantage of that, but we thought about that external consideration. When you take a look at our financial assessment, that's really what drove us to referendum. Is that when you take a look at the amount of money, although we have spent $13 million over the last few years, 10 years, on facilities, our budget just doesn't support the big ticket items that we need. It doesn't support it. It's not that Brent is hoarding the money or Ann is hiding the money, it just doesn't support it. There are some small items that can get done, but it just doesn't support the big items that's occurring. So this link is just to what our fund balance currently is, and we'll go back to that. So we looked at just a ton of data. Again, I'll take you back to the big live binder that we had on facilities. We had to do new maps for every inch of every facility. we had to do, we reviewed the size, we did site amenities, we talked about, all those engineers came in and just did a number of things to take a look at information. We interviewed staff, we observed staff, we watched them. In addition, we decided to do the school perception survey to get some more information. And all of that kind of got us to an action plan to think about, what are we gonna do? You know, energy efficiency projects that we're working on, and then I also gave you a link to the full report here. When you take a look at the high school, remember they went through every piece and they ranked it on functional condition, on safety and compliance, project cost, the annual savings, and gave it a total points. And then ranked it in total points all the way down to the following different items. That's how we arrived at the referendum. There was a description and inspection, and so what we've done since that time is we've continued to use this as our action plan. We could have gotten most of that done through the referendum, and that's what drove our referendum. It wasn't, you know, Ann decided we needed to change vehicular traffic. It was that safety and compliance identified that that's an issue. So here's some of the projects that we've already worked on. I did a list of those for you. Projects that were identified as energy efficiency projects and safety and accessibility. First on our list really is that high school education, special education classroom, the chemistry and the science rooms. That came in high. The several gym areas, the ADA, the gym floor is on the last repair, the bleacher repair quotes. The domestic hot water storage, we've done some of that. We installed 3 additional high efficiency water heaters. Some of the other things we did, much of the main electrical distribution equipment. Remember this past year you put $10,000 into the main electrical system at the high school. Some of the things Brent is currently working on, like looking at a price for the IP cameras in the schools. Following this report, one of the first things we did, we installed 2 high efficiency boilers at the high school. The roof on the Kresge was done. The technology infrastructure was done. We sunk a lot of money into that using our dollars, our E-rate dollars. This we went ahead and we got a bid for, that has not been done. But just a number of different things, and hopefully this outlines for the board, these are things that we are doing, and this is how you arrived at the projects identified as energy efficiency, was because of this study. So now the same at the middle school. The number one priority at the middle school is identified as an energy efficiency project for us. It's number 1 and 2 of the energy efficiency projects. The top thing that they say we have to fix, we've identified as an energy efficiency project. The elevator, we do have a ballpark price on that, but Steve is working on trying to get an exact number for that. That was labeled as number 2. Number 3 in the middle school would be identified as an energy efficiency project. Talked about the cameras, and Brent is getting bids on that. Talked about the electrical equipment, and that's identified as number 7 for the middle school. So when you look at the number of identified energy efficiency projects, that's where they are on the list. Take a look at the elementary school. You know, we looked at, you know, what's the biggest thing that needs to be done at the elementary school? Cameras and security. And then number 2 was that separate boiler plants. So we identified that as partially part of the energy efficiency project. And then this summer, we're installing those new boilers. We're doing that because it was number 2, one of the biggest things that we had to do on our list, and we were able to get bids, and that's why that became part of our project. So if you're wondering, if we go back and we say, you know, what are we doing? off of our priority planning, the fund balance priorities that we've identified would be the high school special education classroom, and to move forward in getting exact bids on that science and chemistry classroom. And then we identified the energy efficiency priorities, because there's such a payback on that.
So as a board, had we had a past referendum, all these items would have been addressed through that vehicle. We don't have that, so now we're looking ahead to say, okay, what are we gonna tackle individually through monies we either have in our fund balance or possibly revenue limit exemption for the energy efficient related products. So it's important for the board to understand the status of that and understand, what's being worked on. So questions from the board regarding the information Ann just shared?
Obviously, the roll-up on cost for that detailed spreadsheet is a significant concern. And I didn't see a monetary value for most line items. That would be a significant element, I think, in making decisions.
I think that was placed in your, remember the three bids we got from three contractors for the referendum?
Yeah, that
So-
was for referendum. Now we're talking separate line items, each individual item, right?
Yeah, I could definitely take from that spreadsheet and put it into this spreadsheet and give you that pricing. So we have that pricing evident of last year. So some of these projects that are identified were clearly identified in that budget, in that big spreadsheet budget.
Okay.
So, but I agree, that's why we're coming to you for the,
Okay, so the roll-up, let's just use arbitrary numbers because I don't know what
Sure.
it is. Let's say it's $750,000,
sure.
and that becomes substantial in the planning process
Mhm.
and in the budgeting process.
Yeah.
Then it's, okay, how do I amortize that over a certain amount of time? 3 years, 4 years? How can you spread the burden out to
Yeah,
not
we'll never-
sacrifice the delivery
Yeah.
here of quality education? That's really what this comes
This
down to.
budget will but your budget will never ever support the physical needs of the plan. So all of your schools will never ever be able to be supported in the budget that the Mosinee School District runs. So I can't say, well, let's wait and let's do this over 3 years, because you will never support the physical needs. That's why the laws exist, to continue to do referendum updates, or referendums. Your budget will never support the 1922 building to fix it. There's just not enough money. Our budget,
20-some million. I would use it, the equation of, if a person does some work around their house, they might side it or put a roof on it, but if you're gutting the kitchens and putting in bathrooms, people take out a home equity loan, and in essence, you're in a situation where you've got a lot of stuff to fix. I mean, the last referendum, Kevin, was 34 million, so I mean, even if you cut it in half, 17 million is a lot of money, just to operate out of. I mean, it's more money than you could really fund readily out of any budget. I mean, I don't know
and
how you do
our
it.
budget, when you look at the whole pie of our budget, what's the majority of our budget?
80% salaries and
80% is salaries. So
Heavy
you'll never
staff.
have enough money to fix everything that you need to fix, which is really frustrating for public schools in Wisconsin. Really frustrating, which is why the governor did a couple of laws. That's really why. That's why, because he said, I get that. Some schools were literally closing.
We carry a nice fund balance. How much of that fund balance is accessible for these type
I'd
projects?
say if you don't want to cash flow borrow, you probably $1.5 million would be a number that I would put out there.
Does the fund balance we carry hurt us in terms of
Well,
state funding?
No, it doesn't hurt you for state funding. I said the big pluses I would say is when you're bonding, when you do pass a referendum, it helps your rating and your interest rate. I mean, when the Kresge roof was sitting needing replacement, it was $500,000. We didn't blink, we just sat there and were able to do it. Steve's boiler project, you don't really worry. I mean, yeah, he's spending $300,000. It gives you a lot of flexibility, just like money in the bank at home to fix something if something goes wrong at my house, is the way I look at it.
I gotta disagree. I think the fund balance is absolute good news to us, because the general population of our school district, the voting public, just thinks that's a bank account we can take money out of all the time. So I think the fund balance absolutely hurts us, because they're not smart enough to understand, nor do they care to become educated about the issue.
I'd be willing to bet a lot of our voting public doesn't even know what's there and.
Right.
Well, the
understand it.
loudmouths do. The loudmouths don't understand it.
I know what you're saying, but we must maintain the balance to protect ourselves. If we have a disaster or something.
I'm not saying to eliminate, I'm saying, in the context of this discussion, he was saying it helps us, and I understand why he's saying it helps us, but I take an opposite viewpoint, it hurts us, because the people who vote, they're voting down referendums when we clearly have needs.
All perspective, right?
It's all perspective.
It helps us if we pass a referendum, if we can't.
We're never gonna pass a referendum now. Most
So-
things
but
only
I
to
agree,
have
credit
a school
rating, you just
district that is as cheaply ran as
Nobody will take the
possible,
application.
provide the
Give the
minimum
application.
requirement to qualify as a school. That's it. They want nothing
So-
more.
One of the things that we're constantly doing, Kevin, is to be able to say, on this priority matrix, is to be able to say, okay, if in the high school, we would like to tackle, number one, and we had the bids come in, and we would like to tackle that. We then went out for 3 bids. That's what we're bringing forward to you tonight. And did that change from the time that we got all of that bidding? It did. It did, because it's a single item now. It's not the whole hallway. It's just these 2 classrooms. So that did change. So then we still, what we're bringing forward to you tonight is 3 bids.
How did it change?
Well, the
Did
scope
it get more
of it.
expensive?
Mhm.
Thanks, I just wanted to mention to reflect that.
It did, and it's gonna continue to go up. So if you say to us, Kevin, let's just take a look at this. So I linked this in here for you. What do we currently have this cost at? Well, Steve keeps this, and this is as of a summer delivery of 2017. That price, guess what? That's gonna change with the summer delivery of 2018. So what he is doing, and I think I'm driving him a little bit crazy, but I always want to say, what does this cost if we brought this forward to the board? And do we have enough money in our fund balance to tackle this project this year? Or in our construction budget, do we have enough? So tonight what we're bringing forward to you is the special education classrooms and the 3 chemistry and science classrooms. As two priorities.
So maybe just as a question, have we looked at this list and put a targeted timeframe on each of these items? Knowing we don't know what
Yeah.
money's gonna be available, but at
You-
least,
I think you have to when it happens. So if you wanted me to go get bids for all this, that's what I did. That's the referendum, that's that spreadsheet. But if you said to me, you know what, Ann, I wanna do the hydronic piping for the 1960, 65 sections, bring me forward with bids, that's what I'd like to do.
All right. I understand that logic, but as I stated in the previous meeting, somehow we need to get ahead of this. You know, it seems like we've been reactive,
I
you
got
know?
we can't.
What, no,
Okay.
I think that this whole presentation was to answer your question.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
Yes, it was.
End up
I
with
got
the
it.
board.
It's up to everybody.
Okay, well, good
Yeah.
God, people, we've seen this how many freaking times?
Actually, no.
I'm getting tired of it.
I apologize. This is the first time I've seen it, and it's good information.
Okay.
So this is,
Well,
No,
I'm not-
this
all right.
detail,
I
this
have the-
detail
I
perspective.
have the floor. So, I've heard several times, and if you've only seen this once, Kevin, fine. There's no way we can do all that stuff. Please understand that. I mean, I've sat through this 2 cycles now. We can't do all that stuff. We can't. We get to pick and choose single issues. You heard it from him or from her, you can't do it all. And you keep saying, we gotta get ahead, we gotta get, you can't, you will never get ahead of it until you pass your referendum.
Just
It's
one thing,
financially impossible.
one thing that, because I look at that spreadsheet and I can follow along and see what all those things are, but I'm not sure we as a board, outside of the referendum, taking all of that encompassing in the referendum, have ever sat down with the list of things that need to be fixed. And like, I know there's 20 or 30 items there, but, and we can't afford to fix 20 or 30 items,
Well-
but to pick the top 10,
We did though, Matt, we did. This is the priority
This is-
matrix, and it's not Kelly deciding, or Mark deciding, or Mike deciding. A team of engineers decided what comes first, what comes second, what comes third. The matrices that I'm showing you are these matrices that were a part of the thing. I just put them in a different format right here. So this is the exact matrix that was in the CISA 10 report. It's the exact matrix. What I've done for you is I've just said, these are projects in the bids, this is what's completed, and this is what's energy efficiency. We don't rank them because Kelly Ann and Diane don't have that expertise. That's why the team of engineers came through, and based on those conditions, they decided what our priorities should be. And they came and said, hey board, this is what your priorities should be.
I understand that's what they told us our priority should be. But a gym floor is listed as a high priority for them. And for maybe for me personally, it would be, but it might not supersede another board member's priority on another item that's 1 point lower. And I think that by having a discussion about the top 10 issues that have to be there, that gives us a lot of direction to say, okay, let's look at how much money Brent says we can actually spend and get it done.
Well,
As far as we can go this year though, is only the top 2. I couldn't do anything else for you besides.
Within the fund balance strategy you currently have.
Correct.
Okay,
But
that's-
energy
that's a
efficiency,
topic
I'm
that I
bringing you
think
a
that
different
We need to
strategy.
bring up to the whole board here. You know, that's the real issue here. And it just, to your comment, it came up last week, or last month. Do we buy a skid steer? Or do we work on our things for our classrooms? That's what came out of that conversation. And I'm totally on board. We gotta take a look at what the deliverable is here. And that's where we need to put our energy and our emphasis.
Right, and our team comes forward on what those recommendations are. Whether we come forward to you with the construction budget and you approve it, or materials, I mean, there also comes maintenance. And in other words, I'm not gonna fire 10 teachers in order to be able to do the hydraulic, I mean, do you know what I mean?
I get it.
Our budget for materials is not very much. It just isn't. We don't spend a lot of money on equipment, which is why we're spending a lot of money on people fixing all of our old equipment. So we put a cost benefit analysis to that purchase.
Go ahead, Corey.
I think I understand what you're getting at on discussing the 10 things, but one of the reasons the gym floor ranks so high is because it's at end of
Failure.
life.
I understand that.
So if you're gonna have a discussion where this group of people is gonna talk about 10 things, emotion's going to drive what people prioritize and not fact.
I think both are relevant to the conversation, but I think at the end result of that is direction can be given. Because sometimes it's, well, I know I have these 2 things to do. I have $1 million that I can spend. This is a $1.5 million project, or I can do these 3 other ones that rank slightly below it. I don't know what the end result of this board or that conversation would be, but I think that's worthwhile because I think for the district and the administration, giving them some direction that it's our plan over the next, you know, I realize it's an extended period of time, is to fix these things out of fund balance, and let's find a way to do that. So that they feel like they're not spinning their wheels when they're going and getting bids and having people look at all these projects that may or may not be approved.
All we're bringing forward to you is number 1, because that's really all the money that we have available, is the top priority there. And the other thing that we're bringing forward to you is the projects for the energy efficiency. And that we're already full into, and we'll talk about that.
Well, we do have more money available, though. We just, as a board, would have to direct Brent to free it up. Because you mentioned $1.5 million in fund balance. The top 2 projects are $1.5 million.
Yes, they are.
I think we're,
The science classrooms will be. That's just, I mean, what I would say is let's get a direction on that tonight. We're gonna ask you for a direction on that. But I think the 2 together will put you at that.
Then you have a $274,000 construction budget this year, is what we get budgeted against.
I mean, in our best guess, those science classrooms and the special education classrooms will be over $1 million.
how much of that 274 was spent already?
on those two projects?
We're coming to the end of the school year.
Right now, all of it, I'm over by 6th grade.
So that,
That's gone.
yeah.
But I mean, you guys, I mean.
But we spent it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, we got stuff
and
to
the public
fix.
needs to know we're spending
As you know.
$280,000
Uh,
on improving our schools, so, okay.
Okay.
The problem is, if you look at a school as a business, we don't make money.
No.
We collect money. Our shareholders are voting public. We're here to try to direct what decisions we need to make. A lot of boards act on behalf of their shareholders. We allow our shareholders to help with those decisions. And unfortunately, they don't like our ideas, so here we are. But we can't fix the problems we have through normal operations. We just don't have the revenue to allow for that, period. I mean, you look at if we get $25 million in funding, and we have $30 million in needs, even $2 million a year, which is 10% of your revenue, which you couldn't afford to spend. It would take you 15 years, 17 years to get ahead. And by that time, the stuff's wore out again. So we're just,
Not Mosinee, it's good for 50, 60 years.
So we have great maintenance.
Huh?
So we have great.
oh, the unfortunate part, a lot of the things that were built 50 years ago were built better than they are today.
The world doesn't change though. I mean, nothing's gonna be different 50, 60 years.
We're not making much progress here right now.
No.
Other questions from the board regarding the information Ann just shared?
Can we not see it again?
Right.
Well, I think it's important to keep the list in front of us so we know as we're progressing.
Yeah, that's important,
I
because when
think
we're
it is
challenging the
important.
community, we have to be aware of that.
You know, at least quarterly, maybe it's a quarterly update as we start knocking
I
off
would
some of
say
these
every time I
projects.
do a project, I'll bring it forward and I'll tell you which one on the list, because I think that's what you needed. Because even though you've seen this list in the packet, it didn't make sense, I don't think, until you
The
see it
spreadsheet was used.
is better, right? You just see it differently.
Every time we start a project, we're updated on the project status until that project is finished. And then it's, what are the other projects? We kind of do that today anyway with a lot of our reoccurring line items on our agenda, so.
It'll come right and we'll continue to update this project's already completed in progress. Now, the link in your agenda will take you to this. That link is always live. So in the connection, the link in this board agenda, this link is always live. So in 2 weeks, if you go click on this link, it's live. So it's updated as we do projects.
The other thing to keep in mind is, I guess it would be column M, the green, those energy projects can be accomplished in one swoop if we decide as a board to move in that direction.
That's the next line right
Fred, would you be able to tell us how much you spent on a pool every year?
Well, I can tell you,
I mean, give me that
some
number.
ballparks, you spend about $100,000 for the YMCA to staff it with guards and manage the pool.
Now, Steve said it was like $300,000-$400,000 just to heat.
We don't have a separate meter, but I mean, I'm sure we could get some type of ballpark number if we asked the utility or like one of the vendors we're speaking at for the revenue line, you know, get an idea.
Yeah, a ballpark of that. Everybody's a little bit different, but it's.
You can give us a number of what it costs a year?
Yeah, I think we can give you a ballpark, right?
Okay.
You wouldn't want to tell you it's absolute,
Yeah.
you know, but we can get you a semblance of an idea.
Anything further regarding the review of our facility planning process? We'll move on to item 2, double I. Update on our timeline and process for our revenue limit exemption for energy efficiency projects.
So we have approved this document. And what I wanted to do is, right within this document is go to page 8 and 9, which shows you where we're at in the process, okay? So at the last board meeting, we said we were going to undertake the selection process to describe, so we advertised for requests for proposals. The board approved that, And the following energy service companies were contacted. Train, they rejected. Nexus did respond. H&H responded. Schneider Electric responded, and then right before the board meeting today, rejected. So those submission of responses were due June 30th. We still have another week, but we've already heard from all four. We were gonna select a qualified provider, and we have a clear rubric outlined on how we were gonna select that provider. Remember Megan, who came and presented to us? She helped us develop that. We did some site visits already. We're gonna evaluate